It is time for the Equity Guru Jody Vance Experience. Glad to have you along with us today as we once again delve into some opportunities perhaps for the new investor, somebody trying to dip their toe into investing for the very first time. We're going to garner some great advice from some people who are certainly in the know, as well as learn a little about their company and their initiatives, I guess would be a good way to sort of frame this one up. We're speaking to the chairman, CEO, and founder of Nomad, Vincent Metcalf, along with his partner, Joseph de la Plante, the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer with Nomad. Gentlemen, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So can I dive in with a little bit from each of you? First, Vincent, let's start with you. Before we get into Nomad, how did you start investing? How did you start playing the market, as it were?
Yeah, well, right out of college, we actually, Joseph and I have a very similar, I guess, path to entering the capital markets things. So both of us out of college at different times. He came out of, and he'll be able to talk about that, out of engineering school. I came out of finance. But we actually started with the Bank of Montreal in the investment banking team in the mining sector. So after graduating, we ended up doing a few years at BMO together in the mining space, and that's where we really, I would say, started learning about the sector, about the various, I would say, levels, or I would say different types of companies in terms of explorers, developers, royalty companies. And then also, I would say the different types of visions that the management teams were putting forward. So that gave us, I guess, a good entry to our sector, the mining sector. But I think in general, as you know, growing up, I remember on Saturdays my dad would give me the newspaper, and I would go at the back and look at the tickers and kind of track a few different tickers on a weekly basis. So I think that just came naturally. But I think operating in the grand, capital markets space was something that was always interesting to me, but the mining space was what really changed it for me. And I think, we've been involved, Joseph and I, for the last 15 years in the sector, and it's been a lot of fun since.
All right, Joseph, jump in.
Yeah, very similar story on my side. I mean, really the introduction for me happened when I started in investment banking. I had this opportunity to work with many different types of companies and really dig deep, into the management teams, into the operations, and got to compare many different groups of people doing interesting things. And it was really eye-opening to then see what happened with these companies in the market, and which ones performed well, which ones didn't. And it really gave me an appetite to follow the market and follow companies that I know and see how they're doing on a quarterly basis. It's really, I would say it's a profession for us, but fundamentally it's something that I enjoy, and I know Vince enjoys very much.
So this brings us perfectly to Nomad, because basically, you can give me the Coles notes on the company, but you're using what you've just explained, the both of you, to gather the intel to create something where people can kind of one-stop shop on exactly what you were looking for. The things you looked at the ticker and then watched the companies grow, there had to be consistencies within those companies that you acknowledge and sort of use in your expertise now.
Yeah, well, I think we had the benefit of growing into this sector over the past 15 years. I mean, I ended up staying on the banking side a bit longer than Joseph did. He went to the corporate side a bit quicker than I did. But I think that complements us well in the sense that when we did join back together back in 2014, and we've been working pretty much together since, it allows, we grew, I guess, over, I would say 9 or 10 years through different paths. But when we joined again, we were able to be very complementary in the things that we wanted to do, having, more of a technical front and then more of a finance front. And then also kind of bridging the investor side of things. And that's something that, in our sector, sometimes there's a lot of very good technical people. There's a lot of good promoters, but really bridging the gap between those two different worlds and bringing, I would say, a different product, or at least a different way of explaining our company to the investor. I think you need a bit of both. So I think that's what works well with our team, and including Elif, who's our CFO and partner in the business as well. I think between the three of us, that's what we're able to do, is really play on everybody's strengths and explain that. And when we sit down with investors, really have a very clear and simple way of explaining our business, which I'm sure we'll get into over the next few minutes.
In 3, 2, 1, go with the mission statement on Nomad.
I'll let Joe go.
Well, I think one thing that you highlighted is we're really a one-stop shop for the precious metals mining space. For investors looking to get, to dip their toes into the gold sector, the royalty business is an amazing place to start. We really view ourselves as an investment team. We have this big vantage point over the industry, and we're able to aggregate many different assets into one portfolio. And over time, what you've seen is royalty companies really outperform the rest of the mining space. And so, for us, what we're really trying to do is build a precious metal focused, low volatility business that over time will return lots of capital to shareholders, reinvest, grow our business, and provide that anchor in a portfolio, which, for a new investor, maybe, you're trying to understand why add gold to your portfolio. Well, it's really simple. When the rest of the economy is doing well, gold is a good insurance to have in your portfolio for events like we've seen this year. So we're really trying to best position Nomad to be in a diversified portfolio, have that gold weighting, and just be a safe bet in the portfolio.
Low risk is something that jumps out to a novice investor who isn't looking at the quick hit, fast, risky win that everybody loves when playing the markets. But you can also lose a hell of a lot of money if you do that sort of willy-nilly. What I'm hearing from you here is that you two or your group at Nomad are doing the due diligence to gather together a number of, pardon the pun, but rock solid mining companies to sort of come together as a piece of your portfolio that you could invest in that and methodically, I guess, march toward a return. Is that sort of layman's terms for what you're doing?
Yeah, and I think you touched on a few points. It's for an investor kind of looking at the mining sector and figuring out how do I, what do I buy? How do I get exposed? It's not an easy task. I mean, we've been in the sector 15 years and we're still learning every day. There's a lot of technical things that people need to understand. It's pretty tough to look at a mining operator and say, okay, they've got 5 mines. What's the revenue generation? What's their cost structure? Where are they based? Are they based in in Canada? Are they based in Argentina or in the middle of Africa or in Australia? What are the effects of currency on those operations? Right. What's the labor issues? Are they in a good situation, a bad situation? What's the environmental policies? So those are all questions that investors have to kind of ask themselves when they're looking to invest in an operator. And even if we look at the other side on the exploration front, that's essentially a bunch of geologists kind of looking at rocks and drilling holes in the ground and coming up with results. But for the average, I would say, generalist investor, it's tough to understand what's a good result from a bad result. What we bring from a royalty point of view is, obviously, we have some expertise. We have a great team behind us as well. But we invest in opportunities that kind of aggregate all the benefits of the mining space, which is getting exposure to the gold and silver for us, getting exposure to resource growth, so the benefits of having something in operation. But at the same time, we have that steady cash flow generation that comes from these investments. But we're not the operators, and we don't have to reinvest in these operations. So really, it's more of a passive approach. As Joseph said, we're not operators. We're more kind of a portfolio manager in a sense. So for an investor, when they're looking at investing in Nomad, that's what they get, is kind of that low risk investment approach, but with great optionality, which a gold bar, because the other option would be for an investor to buy a gold bar. Well, the gold bar doesn't pay a dividend, and it doesn't pay, it doesn't have resource growth or optionality down the road, which our investments in these projects and these mines, these operators keep spending money on these operations, but we don't have to spend additional dollars. So once we've done our first investment, we get the benefit of every dollar the operator keeps spending on it. So that's where a company like Nomad has a lot of benefits, which again, a gold bar doesn't, or an operator or developer, an explorer. They have a lot of these benefits, but they also have a lot more risks, which are associated with the operations.
I'm starting to understand why Nomad, owned by no one, owning really no one, but invested in all places.
Exactly, and I think you made a good point when you said when you're buying into Nomad, you're benefiting from all the work that we do on due diligence on these different investments, because when you look at the mining space today, it is very difficult to choose what to invest in, and time and again, investors get, they pick the wrong names and they underperform or they don't perform as they want. So really, a good example is whenever we do due diligence, we spend somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000, on legal, on technical, on many different fronts. So you're getting all of that when you invest with the business. And I think the thing to talk about too is our team. We've talked about Vince and myself, but the broader team with Ilif, we've been working together for a long time. Prior to Nomad, we've created another royalty company. So, we know what we're doing.
Right, not your first rodeo.
We've done it before, and we know exactly where we want to go with this business. And as I said, the royalty space has shown time and again that it's a great model. And when you get in on day one in these businesses, historically, it's done very well for shareholders.
And there, once again, seems to be a constant in all of my lessons throughout this Jody Vance experience, the series that we're doing, is you want to get in early. You want to be able to find out about where the opportunities are, that you can look at that and say, you know what, I've got a little bit of money that I'm going to put in there, and assess the risk and know sort of where it goes from there. In mining, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like it was really I'm going to be edgy, old white dude niche investor, right? Like when you said, I used to look at the stocks on the back of the newspaper on the ticker with my dad. You, a guy with your dad. There are a lot of women with a lot of money who want to invest. We like gold. It's like, I kind of feel like you guys are speaking to a broader audience.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if we do this Jody Vance experience again, I think we'll probably try to bring in Ilif as well, who's our third partner, and she's been with us for past 6-7 years as well. And she's definitely one of the better mining executives in the business. And I think same thing can be said with our other employee, Annie, who's, I think there's a lot of the mining world is definitely changing. I think it's about time it changes. But at the end of the day, I think it's also a different mentality from some of the management teams. From our point of view, we just created the business. We want to make sure that we're as aligned with the investors that are coming in. We're not taking a cash salary, for example, this year, because we want to, we're taking shares on a quarterly basis to make sure that we keep that alignment with the investors coming in today. So, on a quarterly basis, we get our shares. We've both, Joseph and I, have been buying shares in the market recently. So these are things that we're looking at the long term versus just kind of, as you were saying, again, that quick hit. We're looking to create, per share value and really multiply that over time. And, that's, again, I think it's a vision that we have for this company. I think there's a lot of new management team that have that vision for the mining sector. And, hopefully over the next few years, we'll see a bit of a shift.
I also like the fact that you guys are active when it comes to social media and wanting to do something like this to educate people who maybe only have $500, $1,000 to invest, but might just hand that over to you, to know that you are, not just taking some off the top and putting it in your pocket, but actually taking the shares that they will win on too. If it's a win for you, it's a win for us kind of mentality. I think that is that's an important piece.
Well, it's a very simple business. At the end of the day, when you look at our business, it is very simple. We're in an industry that historically has been complicated to understand.
Yes.
But the way we want to build this one is to make sure everyone can easily understand what it is that they're buying. And I think that's what you get when you buy a royalty company, when you buy Nomad. And you're absolutely right. Everyone that has an investment portfolio that has an interest in investing should be looking at gold, should be looking at royalty companies. This is not some specialized thing that should appeal to a niche of people or investors. It is broad, and everyone should be thinking about these types of investments for their portfolio.
Okay, so one curveball for you when it comes to that foundational piece of gold, because when all hell breaks loose, you buy gold. Some are saying that maybe Bitcoin is going to be the new gold. Certainly some young upstarts that want it to be. Where is the mindset when it comes to gold versus Bitcoin for that sort of foundational piece to weather any storm?
Well, yeah, it's about scarcity, right? It's, at the end of the day, Bitcoins are becoming more and more difficult to create. So the ones that are already in the market, you can see that value appreciate. It's the same thing for gold. Every ounce of gold that has been mined for thousands of years is still available and still on the face of the earth. But it's all the gold that's been mined probably fits inside my house in terms of the size of it. It's not a big amount. So it's that scarcity value where you can't print gold like you could print dollars. But obviously the Bitcoin is something that is I would say new generation versus gold is my dad's stuff. So I think that's where a team like us could potentially bridge that. And I'm the first to say that Bitcoin's great, but gold's great too. But gold is something tangible that you could touch. Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
And it comes with a history of, being more tied into the regulation of the markets. I think it's a very important point to consider at this point in time, because at the end of the day, we're talking about different types of hard assets, and you can come up with the same rationale to buy either. But when you look at your investment options to buy gold, our company, as well as the other mining company, the royalty companies, are regulated by, market regulators. And that comes with a certain level of comfort. You're not going to wake up one morning and realize your investment in gold disappeared somewhere in India. It's, these are real businesses that you're buying into, and that should not be taken for granted when you're investing your money.
Tested security, I think, is what I'm hearing there. This is a tried, tested, and true secure place. And there's no denying the fact that when things get turned upside down, like, I don't know, a global pandemic, you see people shift into where it's safest to put your money. I want to ask you before you go, both of you, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about what your day's like. Vincent, when we were trying to connect with you today, you're like hanging up the phone on something while you were coming up on screen. And how busy is your day as you expand Nomad?
Look, I don't think we've been this busy in the past 7 years since we've been involved in the royalty and streaming sector. Obviously, this pandemic is bringing a few restrictions in terms of traveling. So, we're investing in projects all over the world. So it does bring us to do things a lot differently in terms of doing a lot of things online and via the web and meeting people, which at the end of the day, we're catering to all the different places in the world. So sometimes we'll start at 5 a.m. in the morning, we'll finish at midnight, depending on who we're talking to. But I think that the important thing is that we're getting things done. So we're very, very busy. We've done a lot of things so far this year. We've only been trading for 6 months now. So we started trading on May 29th. We've put a credit facility in place of $75 million. We now have 7 research analysts that covers us from the big brokerage firms. We've already done 3 transactions in terms of 2 transactions, which were around $7.5 million. We just closed our last one a couple of weeks ago for about $40 million. So it's been a very, very busy time for us. And I think 2021 will bring even more opportunities, as we can see in our pipeline at the moment. Joseph and I are incredibly busy, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to execute on a lot of those.
How do people find you guys?
Well, I was going to just lead to that point. We're not too busy to talk to shareholders. We're probably one of the more accessible management teams. It's as simple as going on our website. There's a big yellow button on the front page that says book a meeting with management. It goes right to our inbox, and we'll be in touch within a few hours to set something up. So anyone that has interest, whether you want to invest $10 or $50,000, we're happy to spend half an hour with you, talk to you about the business, why we're excited about it. And hopefully we can bring on new shareholders in Nomad.
I think that is just a fantastic way to cap this off. Guys, I hope one day we get to go in studio and maybe even shake hands in a pandemic. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much.
And that is the Jody Vance Experience with Nomad.
What?